All right, so our last video is going to be on using reflections, and I have just a nice little video here for you to watch some nice animation on it.
In a billiards game, a player must hit the white cue ball, labeled C, so that the cue ball hits the red ball, labeled O, without touching the yellow ball. Where should the cue ball bounce off the top rail so it hits the red ball? Consider the top rail as a line of reflection and find the reflection of the red ball. The line of reflection, labeled R, is drawn where the cue ball will bounce. To find the reflection of the red ball, we use the line of reflection. The image of the red ball, labeled O', is the same distance from the line of reflection as the red ball. This is how we know it is a correct reflection. Now, draw the segment from the cue ball to the image of the red ball. Reflect the segment from the cue ball to the red ball across the line of reflection. This shows us a path that the cue ball can take to hit the red ball. The player should aim at point P, where the two segments intersect. Point P is where the cue ball will bounce off the top rail so it hits the red ball without touching the yellow ball.
All right, so after watching that video, we'll try something kind of similar here. We've got student A, here's student A, sees the reflected image across the mirror of another student who appears to be at B'. So we have a mirror right here where the student is not seeing through the mirror, but what the student is doing is they are looking at the mirror, and this is how they're looking at the mirror, because when you look at a mirror, it looks like this student B is right there. Like that's their line of sight. They're looking at the mirror and it looks like the student is just beyond right there. Show the actual position of student B. So student B, this is B', student B is going to be reflected across our mirror. So what we want to remember about reflections is they reflect across a perpendicular, we need that perpendicular bisector. So just to help me make some measurements, I have my nice little rectangle to help me out. I'm lining the bottom of my rectangle up with the line of reflection, which is the mirror, and I'm gonna go ahead and draw in from B' to the mirror. This is how I'm gonna get that right angle. So I know that I've got a perpendicular line happening. Then I want to go ahead and just line that up so that I can continue my line to the other side. And I'm using the right angles of the rectangle to help me with this. Now I want to figure out where student B is. So student B is going to be the same distance away from the line of reflection, which is our mirror. So however far away the reflected image is, that's where student B is going to be. And I'm just going to use this little rectangle to help me do that. I'm going to resize it so my rectangle is the same length from B' to the line of reflection. I'm just going to move it down. And again, you guys can be creative and find your way of doing this. I'm going to plot the point right there. I am going to get rid of the the rectangle. And this is where student B is located, right here. So what's happening is student A is looking at the mirror, and then they're actually, the reflection, or that line of sight, is hitting student B right there. So that's how student A is seeing the reflected image of student B, but ultimately student B is located in that position.